This unit I've already flashed on my PC with the flashlight. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the pre-wiring portion of it out of the way. This is just a typical prep sheet that I give to all my customers. This is the wiring that's going to have to be involved in installing this in the truck. So everything that's solid wires here is mandatory required connections. All the stuff you see here with the dotted lines is illustrating that it's just optional, like the door lock, unlock for factory security, driver door pin, retain accessory power, parking lights. None of that stuff is required to make this thing actually work. What is required is this, the T-harness for the transponder, and as well as the ignition harness, and lastly, the 2 wires for the CAN bus. I was kind of like narrate to my own self, and you guys can just overhear what goes on in my brain. So what I'm doing here now is I'm just kind of like neatening up the power harness, shrinking it so that way it's manageable. Over here, my red plug, I'm just going to pull out that you don't need. On the installation guide, it shows you which ones you do need. You need yellow, black, light blue, and blue, black. So I'm just going to stretch that out. I know I go a little fast, but I do have a lot of experience, so stay with me. In this case, the yellow is not required. So I cut that so that way it's inside the tape and it's safe and secure. It's not going to possibly make any connections in the vehicle. 3 wires that are left, I'm going to strip back about 1 inch on each of them. So that portion of the harness here is done. Next one I'm going to do is my CAN bus 5-pin plug here. Stretch that out, and I'm going to remove the 3 that I don't need. We don't typically need this much to make connections in the vehicle since everything's so close together. So I'm just going to remove all that stuff. I'm just going to inflate these. Now, instead of just leaving these wires loose like this, what I'm going to do is take my cordless drill, put it inside there, close the chuck so that way I'm grabbing the wires, and I'm going to hold the harness about here as to not put pressure on the pins. And I'm going to just start my drill up. You see what's happening? I get a nice twisted harness, which is neat, clean, and I have a little room here for my connectors, which I'm going to put on there later. So my white CAN bus plug is going to go in there. My other red plug is going in there. So I'll leave that just chilling for now. The power plug I'm going to insert into the module, so all I'm left now is with my big 26-pin white plug. I'm going to take everything out of here that is not required, which in this case for this Ford is darn near everything except for the blue with the black, and the yellow. That's all for the recycling place. You should have seen how much wire I recycled this winter. It's crazy. My whole F-150 was completely maxed out. Totes of wires just bouncing all over the place. Almost $400 I got. Pretty good haul for number 2 wire, right? So anyway, I've got that all removed. What I have left is my ignition, my 2 blues. And these, in this case, are going color to color. And they typically are most of these Fortin kits, by the way. You might use the yellow or the yellow-black on the other side of the T-harness portion, but this side is almost always the same. So there's that plug goes in there. So all that's left now is to just connect these to these. If you look on the guide, you can see this is the side from the white plug going over here. This is the T-harness side. There's the T-harness. There's the 26-pin. You have to connect those together at that junction. What I use is crimp caps. And I know some people are going to say, oh, you use crimp caps. You shouldn't use crimp caps. Well, you know what? That's what I use. I like crimp caps. And if you don't like it, too bad. That's what I like to do. So my blue-black is done. Blue. one up. And last, I got my yellow. Going to my yellow black. You only want to have about a 1/4 inch in there. If it's longer than that, you want to fold it back and keep it protected by the crimp cap. So this thing is just about all done. The last thing for me to do is to put my insulated males on my CAN bus wires. I'll just take those out. And that's about what it should look like. Then I'm going to use these guys, which are just insulated male terminals. Make sure that the male stays centered. That's important. I'll show you why in a second. These are the only 2 connections, by the way, in this vehicle that's going to be required aside from the T-harness. And these you get at the diagnostic connector right underneath the driver's dash. And the way these things work is, this is the male portion of the T-tap, and this here is the female end. So this clamps down on the wire like that, and then these simply slide in there, and it makes its connection. Pretty cool, right? So when you get a kit from me, this is what you can expect. You're going to have pre-plumbed CAN wires plus the T-taps. That's just the way I always do them. The last thing to do is just clean this all up. So I pull it over this way because you will need to unplug this power plug when you're doing the programming sequence, so it's important that you leave yourself plenty of slack there. So when you need to unplug it, you don't have to fight your wiring. So a little bit of pre-thought goes a long way. As my dad used to say, use the 5 P's, son. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. Try to remember that when you're doing wiring. So there you have it. A few minutes later, not a big deal, right? Done. There's your kit, and you have 2 holes here, which you can easily use for a wire tie. Mount them up in there and zip it along. Mount that sucker up in there, and this is all you have left. Click, click. 2 T-taps, and this is done. Now, also in the box, you'll notice that there's some other goodies. At least my kits do. I can't speak to what everybody does, but mine does. That's just the decal, self-explanatory. Also, you have this pin switch. This pin switch is optional. This can go to the dark blue. You can get yourself one of these males, and you can use this. So this would be a remote start disable switch. So if this wire shows ground to the remote start system and the hood is open, it's not going to work. When the hood is closed, the circuit is open and the remote start will function normally. They also come with these switches, so if you don't want to go through this, you can use a switch, or if you like Mercury switches, tilt switches, contact switches, reed switches, all different types of switches, all pretty much will work with one of these kits, or you could just choose not to use any switch at all, and that's okay too. It's your vehicle, it's your installation, but this is how one of these works out, and I hope this was helpful to you. So if you have any questions, you can always shoot us an email or check us out online. I mean, this is what I do for a living, so if you're looking to get one or a good deal and you don't want to go through all the work, you don't have the tools or the facilities or the time to do all this, it's not that much more for us to charge you a small premium to do all this work in advance for you. And plus, you don't have to do all this. You can just get it, plug it in, program it, and be done with it. So if that's your thing, that's the way you like it, I'm your guy. If not, this is how it's done for you to do it yourself.